As individual taxpayers, we are paying GST as well as the tax. Fortunately, unfortunately,
Say that again.
We are paying individual taxations, personal income tax, plus GST.
Plus GST on what?
On everything that we purchase.
Of course, you purchase, you pay a tax.
There should be something, because ultimately, as individual taxpayers, we land up to 25% plus 18% of GST. So I would go from the pockets if that money is saved.
1 minute. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not buy soaps and shaving creams and oils and things like that before GST?
Yes, we did.
Sorry, I'm taking it on a different level. I'm not trying to do anything with your question. I'll answer it. Did we not buy it? Did we not pay taxes to the state authorities? Did we not pay VAT? Did we think at that time I'm paying income tax also? And those days, 90% income tax happened under Mrs. Indira Gandhi. 90% on that personal income tax and also paying VAT, excise duty. Did we ask at that time? I'm not saying you didn't ask then, don't ask now. I'm just asking. Sir, when goods are purchased, we've been since my birth at least, your birth I'm sure. All of us have paid tax on the things that we buy. I'd strongly understand. If you were to say reduce that because GST is earning a lot, bring that down to single digit. I'll go to the GST council and say, hey please, we don't want 12%, 18%, 28%. Yeah. But the principle on which you're taxing buying and selling of goods to be at par with my income tax, or I'm paying income tax and therefore I can't pay for that, may be difficult for me to convince anybody.
There is a philosophy that if you are not borrowing, that means you're not ambitious enough. Which means that if you are borrowing, you're ambitious, you have more ideas than money. How does that translate into at a country level? If India becomes fiscal surplus, is that bad news? There should always be a little bit of deficit, which means there is more and more things to be done. That's what I would like to ask you. Thank you.
No, you're right in your understanding and we'll go by that. But I'll also have to have some discipline. So I won't let my fiscal deficit suffer widely or hugely. But I'm conscious of the point that you're saying. Introduce yourself, sir.
I am Manoj Alimchandani, a chartered accountant, 1984 batch, and have been championing Viksit Bharat Amritkal for many, many years, and it will continue throughout the life. Life is short. I would like to know your views, Madam Finance Minister. Viksit Bharat, 15 lakh stakeholders were involved, and it is not new. We are a superpower. How we can all contribute together, each and everybody here and listening to us, to make India a superpower number one. In values, we are always number one. Ancient wisdom, Vedas, and economic maybe number two or number three, what people are talking about number 5. Your inspiration can guide each of us to get mightier and mightier together without much downside, as you very, very clearly explained, whether fintech, whether digital, global
Let
hub.
ma'am answer, sir.
Ma'am, looking forward to your inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much.
You are superlatively good because you put in so much into what you've said. And my reply has got to be short because the next question. No, but I think one underlying fact is the engagement and sharing of thoughts constantly with government is absolutely required. So I would appeal to all of you all that engage with the government in small groups or big, in sectoral groups or otherwise. We need to have thoughts which are coming in so that government also can be responsive. And that is where the collective synergy can come through.
Madam, we are all grateful for you.
Thank
all of
you.
Yes,
you can pass the mic on.
To bring thousands of think tanks together. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hi ma'am, I'm Keshav Hadlalka here, right over here. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to ask a question. At the same means, I would like to assure you that all of us here are fully supporting the Lotus and we will all be voting for BJP. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
हमारा प्रयास यही होएगा, आपका विश्वास हमारे साथ है, हमारा प्रयास यही होएगा कि आपको ही वोट दे. I have a question, ma'am, which I wanted to ask for a long time. Now I've got the opportunity that all companies listed pay taxes, and out of the surplus, the profits earned, the companies pay dividends. So why are dividends taxed in the hands of the investor? Like, I want to be a long-term investor in companies I'm holding. So this is actually a detriment. So if you are removing the dividend tax at the hands of investors, I think it will be supportive for us to hold equities for the long term. So I just wanted your views on it, ma'am.
I can have any number of views, but I can't say it now. I will take your concern on board. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am?
There.
Good evening, ma'am. My simple question is, if you get a chance in your third term as a finance minister, what would be your roadmap to become India as a third largest economy?
You know, it's very difficult to answer a question which starts with if you. It's not in my hand.
Ma'am.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Hello, ma'am. Neha Shah, founder director of Mentor My Board, and it's a pleasure to meet you again here at BSc. Ma'am, my question is: SEBI has mandated NISM certification for at least one key personnel at the AIF managers investment team, and you recently mentioned much about the corporate governance. So, considering the importance of governance in ensuring the stability and the success of startups, how is it that the government is coming up with those schemes or with those, initiatives on corporate governance?
SEBI is come up with, is what you said.
Yes, ma'am.
SEBI is not the government. It's a regulator.
Yes, ma'am. They are the regulators, yes.
Next.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Alok Churiwala here, third generation BSc broker. And while you're at the exchange, one pertinent question that's there in most of our brokers' mind is, we're paying capital gains tax, we are paying STT. Can STT not be done away with because it is adding to friction cost on every transaction?
All right. Any suggestion or question on tax? We'll have to wait for the finance minister who will prepare the July budget.
There's some people at the back. I think they should get a chance too. Please circulate the mic.
Yeah, I am Bharat Dave from the BSc. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, what you have said and all. So, if you bring more retailers, as you had pointed out, more retailers and more saving, if the income tax slab is reshuffled, so more saving will be done and more retail investor will come.
All right, suggestion taken.
Yes.
Ma'am, hello, ma'am. This is Dharan Shah. I'm from Wealth Management. I had an interesting question, ma'am, that our rupee is depreciating in a consistent way, which is not allowing us to attract NRI funds into India. So, as we've seen in the past, the rupee has depreciated approximately 4.5% to 6% on an annualized basis. What do you give direction in the coming 10 years? How will the rupee be placed?
When you talk of depreciation against the dollar.
Against the dollar, yes, ma'am, against the dollar.
I think it's being very closely monitored by the Reserve Bank, currency fluctuations and so on. So, and this is something on which I've repeatedly said it because I strongly believe data tells us that, people observe that. So I repeat, not just Indian rupee, look at what has happened to the yen, the Japanese yen. 60 basis points within a couple of months against the dollar. In fact, when I strongly argued that it is the dollar strengthening and not the rupee weakening, I mean, technically, it is that. I was pilloried saying, do you understand anything at all? Now I want to ask people, if you thought only the Indian rupee has a difficult time against the dollar, look at the Japanese yen. So we need, please sit down. What I want to try and say here is we need to look at it a lot more. We meaning all of us, not just the Reserve Bank, not just the government. We need to all understand what is going in terms of the volatility of currency, particularly pitched against the dollar. Because there's a lot of development. India cannot afford to literally, take actions without understanding the complexity of what is developing in terms of dollar versus many currencies. And that is one of the reasons I understand even yesterday Jay Shankar has spoken about it. We are looking at currencies within the region with which we can trade. Indian rupee trade, or any other country which wants to have a trade with their currency. So we are working out ways in which trade can be facilitated, but countries which don't any longer have dollars cannot be left without trading. They'll also want to buy and sell goods. So there are solutions which we are working out, not just the usual trodden path. Yes, sir.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar, Shaina ma'am. Namaskar, ma'am. Myself, Dr. Farhad Vijay Arora, Mantri, BJP Mumbai, and also Namo Group Foundation Mumbai. I just have a small request of if the KYC process and the other processes for senior citizens who aren't very technology savvy, for them to make it more independent so that they are not dependent a lot on the others. If it can be made more simpler for them to be able to invest further and deeper into the system, ma'am.
Next, sir.
Ma'am, my name is Major Sweekar Trivedi. Ma'am, I studied in London School of Economics and thereafter I joined the Indian Army, ma'am. Ma'am, my question might be digressing a bit from the talk, ma'am, if I may ask. Ma'am, how would you advise the youth of the country to meaningfully engage in policy making potentially?
There are several ways. It depends on where, please sit down. It depends on which area, which domain you want to get in and participate. Now, Reserve Bank of India has an internship program. Finance Ministry has an internship program. There are very many other ministries which also run internship. You can join the public policy making group. PRC used to run it earlier. There are people who are now willing to have young people work as interns with members of parliament. So participation in public policy, and again, even if you do not want to attach yourself to any one of these departments or MPs, whenever there is a standing committee discussion on a particular issue, parliamentary standing committee discussion, advertisements are put out for people to come and participate and give their inputs. Join in that. Write to the parliamentary standing committee saying, I have a view on. It could be environment, it could be youth, it could be policy on employment, it could be climate, it could be anything. So there are ways in which youth can directly, actively engage in policy making.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Anup Gupta here from Sykes and Equities. Just taking the currency question forward, by when can we see the Indian rupee replacing that as a denominator to US dollar?
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the gentleman there in the blue shirt.
Yeah. Just two suggestions, madam. We are talking about a vibrant securities market and the Indian economy growing. Why don't we have some thin lining of your long-term capital gain tax getting reassessed? Because we as investors, we put in our money, we take lots of risk on putting in the money into the equity markets. So once when the capital gain tax was introduced at 10% in 2016 or 2018 with the benchmarking of indexation, after that the same has not been revised. I would suggest you to look into it again once the finance bill is coming in. And the second suggestion is, as individual taxpayers, we are paying GST as well as the tax. So, fortunately, unfortunately.
Say that again.
We are paying individual taxations, personal income tax, plus GST.
Plus
so
GST on what?
On everything that we purchase.
Of course you purchase, you pay a tax.
There should be something, because ultimately, as individual taxpayers, we land up to 25% plus 18% of GST. So I would go from the pockets. If that money is saved.
1 minute. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not buy soaps and shaving creams and oils and things like that before GST?
Yes, we did.
Sorry, I'm taking it on a different level. I'm not trying to do anything with your question. I'll answer it. Did we not buy it? Did we not pay taxes to the state authorities? Did we not pay VAT? Did we think at that time I'm paying income tax also? And those days, 90% income tax happened under Mrs. Indira Gandhi. 90% on that personal income tax and also paying VAT, excise duty. Did we ask at that time? I'm not saying you didn't ask then, don't ask now. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Sir, when goods are purchased, we've been since my birth at least, your birth I'm sure. All of us have paid tax on the things that we buy. I'd strongly understand. If you were to say reduce that because GST is earning a lot, bring that down to single digit. I'll go to the GST council and say, hey, please, yeah, we don't want 12%, 18%, 28%. Yeah. But the principle on which you're taxing buying and selling of goods to be at par with my income tax, or I'm paying income tax and therefore I can't pay for that, may be difficult for me to convince anybody. Yeah?
Got it.
I think there's a gentleman here.
Hello.
Yes, please. Introduce yourself.
I am Praful Shah, Pilot Capital. Madam, I have a very funny question for you. As a broker, when we are putting a trade for retail investor, we are attracting number of taxes, CGST, IGST, stamp duty, STT, long-term capital gain tax. So today, Government of India is earning more than the broker. We have So, government, I am investing everything, I am taking a whole lot of risk, and Government of India is taking away entire profit of mine. You are my sleeping partner, I am a working partner with my finance, my risk, my staff, everything. So what do you want to say on this? Number two, there is one more question for you. You have removed cash component, Mr. Lodha is also there, from buying a house. In Bombay, today, if anybody wants to buy a house, is a nightmare. Because I am paying tax, I have white money. Now we have to pay everything by check. Mr. Lodha will not accept cash. So, my bank balance is purely after paying all taxes to Government of India. Again, when I am buying a house, I have to pay stamp duty, I have to pay GST, so that amounts to 11%. In a city of Bombay, when I'm buying a house, 11% goes out of my pocket towards purchase of house. So how you will assist a small person with limited resources to buy a house, and how a broker can function with hordes of taxes where Government of India is my sleeping partner and I am a working partner with no income.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have last two questions. So.
Sorry, I told Shaina I have no answer for that, but a sleeping partner cannot answer sitting here.
Okay, last two questions. Yes, there in the white shirt.
Ma'am, may I?
No, we're not allowing press to ask questions. You've had your share upstairs. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sheetal Koeskar, employee of BSc. I have a question. PM Modi's vision of Vikasit Bharat is based on a progressive policy formulation plan to achieve India's full potential. According to you, what are the key sectors which will play an important role in this vision?
No, I think the sectors have been very clearly defined. 14 sectors which received PLI because they are sunrise. Not because they are receiving PLI, but because they are sunrise sectors. They are going to be the one which is going to make a lot of difference for this era of India leading towards Viksit. Because they are all frontier sectors, they are newer sectors, they are sectors which involve high technology, they are sectors where India's youth have the skill set to come. We need more of them to come with more skill sets. They are sectors which are going to bring in India's leadership in AI. And therefore, there are centers of excellence being established. We are investing money in them. We are getting domain experts to come from abroad to help our industries advance in their investments in those areas. So prominently, those 14 sectors. Other than that, Agriculture has to be modernized. Farmer has to have better returns. So startups working in agriculture field will have to be given a lot more encouragement. Manufacturing again will have to be restored back, and in fact anything else which has to bring in value addition, because India's contribution, India's manufacturing contribution to our GDP will have to grow. So these are areas in which we'll be.
Last
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. One observation and one
Introduce
suggestion.
yourself.
My name is Jay Kumar. I run a investment bank called Prime Securities. One observation, one of the finest performing baskets in the world, which has not been talked about, probably other than the US tech sector, which is also the top 10, has been the Indian PSU basket. And I think that deserves a round of applause because it's not been talked about. This is probably one of the best performing baskets in the world. In that context, one suggestion that we've consistently as a government outperformed on all parameters, GST, taxation, etc., but not on divestment. So maybe that should be the goal, especially in the context of the most vibrant bull market that we have in PSU baskets. Thank you.
So since that was a comment, the last question goes to you, sir.
Ma'am, I am happy to pay the taxes as much as it's possible because ultimately I am earning and I am paying out of that. But anybody who is paying taxes on a continued basis, we should have something where in future if they find something problem in there, I can say after retirement or something, there should be some provision for that, and this is my suggestion. Because ultimately a person who is paying taxes suppose for 30, 40 years on continued basis paying good amount, but the future security, I can say the retirement security, that should be planned in some way.